Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to post this or not. I spent like basically to make these videos. It takes me. This is not my wheelhouse. Sit in front of a camera and babbling my fucking ass off. By the way, I'm going to swear because YouTube is monetizing my videos. If I click on one of my videos, it says it plays ads. I don't get a penny for those ads. YouTube via Google, via Alphabet is making money off these. But if I swear, I think I get put in algorithm jail. So fuck YouTube. I'm gonna fucking swear and make this video, which I probably won't post. I spent like, it takes me a while to make these videos, like 8 to 12 hours, believe it or not. If I, a long time, it takes a long time to make these videos. So I spent all yesterday shooting one. And sometimes I have a script, not really a script, like I have little pointers that I try and go off of, because if you just roll the camera like I'm doing right now, you start, and I tend to stop and think when I'm in real life. This is not IRL. When I'm in real life, I stop and think, and I'm usually listening to people. This is not natural. So I try and have some idea of where I'm going. But the problem is I was looking at this video yesterday, and it was just so fake. I had an out-of-body experience. Like I came out of myself, and I'm looking at this video and I'm thinking, I don't want to go back down in that body. I don't like that guy. You want to put out content that's like professional, but you wind up sounding like a douche. So in that video yesterday, I was talking about a whole experience that I had like 10 years ago, where I was in a Zen community and we had a sex scandal that involved our teacher, who was 108 years old at the time. And I was trying, so that event was like a seismic scale 10 earthquake in the Zen community that I was in. And it completely shattered the community to the ground, shook us at our foundations, and basically the whole Sangha crumbled. And I was trying to make a connection between that experience and COVID and dealing with COVID. But I didn't say what was really on my mind. And I don't know how to put this because it's freaking tricky. And I don't have it all worked out. So that was one of the reasons that I really despised watching this video, because it was a guy sitting there shouting at the camera. I shout at the camera, by the way, because my fucking camera audio sucks. And so I have to make noise. And then I wind up red-faced and blathering at volume 11 because you can't hear it otherwise. Anyways, like when a community, when an institution falls apart, when you get hit with something really hard and really difficult, like a sex scandal or a pandemic, the rules change. And when it first happens, you just are in denial. Like, you're like, this is gonna blow over. I mean, I remember when COVID first hit, my girlfriend her ex-boyfriend is into shamanism and ayahuasca and mushrooms and astrology and not working or paying alimony. And he told her, my shaman told me that this one is going to be big. The world is going to change. I remember her telling me that, and I'm like, oh, fuck him, fuck his shaman. It'll be fine. It'll blow over. It's not going to be, I mean, I knew this wasn't the case, but I was speaking it. And that's what happens in those initial stages. Like, nobody wants to accept change. Nobody wants to accept that, like, change is here and you can't stop it when it comes. And the second thing I was trying to talk about was, like, when those moments of change come, there are people in power and there are people who are disempowered, right? And we experienced this during the sex scandal. And weirdly, I was one of the people who was, quote, in power. And the community was falling apart. I mean, much like democracy feels like it's falling apart right now. I hate using highfalutin term, democracy's falling apart, but I'm old, I'm allowed to speak that way. And the people who are disempowered, they feel like they're not being heard, and they start creating all kinds of theories and conspiracy theories. And this happened during our community, during that sex scandal. And so I was trying to compare these two different events, but I didn't say what I was really thinking. And then I went out with my friend. I'm going to have to cut her name out. That's why I just edited this. Last night I went out with a friend of mine. Let's call her Lily. Lily is anshin. Anshin is the Japanese word. It's a word that means like you have incredible warmth and tenderness for a person, and it's usually coupled with respect, because Japan is a respect culture in many ways, and so there's a scaffolding of respect, and you hang all your tenderness for this person on it. So I have anshin for Lily. She's a really cool person, and she spent this is a woman who did it, man. She went to Tibet. And she lived there for, I think, 12 years. While I was at the monastery at Mount Baldy, she was in Tibet. And she lived in a cave. She was a cave yogi. And she had all kinds of adventures in Tibet. And, she's a free thinker and a deep thinker and a deep practitioner. And cool and fun and really smart. And she was talking last night. Now, here's what she said. She used to work at the National Library here in Vienna, and it's a massive institution. And she said it goes 5 stories underground, and they have all kinds of books. So it's like the Library of Congress, but it's the Library of Austria. And I mean, millions and millions of books and newspapers. Okay, so she worked there, and she used to get historians who would come into this library, okay? And they wanted old Nazi newspapers. And she said so, because they're doing history. So she would go down into the bowels, like 5 stories down, ding, 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 into the earth of Vienna. And she says like Borges or Borgs, like a labyrinth of tunnels and books. It was just a world of nothing but books, and there were these big hand-cranked aisles, and you're way down at the end of an aisle, and nobody knows you're there. They're dimly lit, and they might and you have to crank the aisles in order to change crank the handles in order to change the shelving. And she said if somebody didn't know you were there, the aisles would start closing in on you like the trash compactor in Star Wars, and you would get crushed, so you have to be shouting out. So what she said was, she used to go down there and she would get these newspapers from World War II era Austria. And she said to me, you don't read German, so you don't know what's going on in our newspapers now. She said, but when I read the newspapers now in Austria, and I see what the media institution, how they're talking about the anti-vaxxers, she said, it reminds me exactly of when I used to go down in Borges' labyrinth underneath the Vienna library, and I would read what the Nazis were saying about Jewish people. She said, they're dehumanizing them. Now, I got my vaccine. I got my first Moderna vaccine, and I got my second Moderna vaccine, and then I got my third Moderna vaccine. I'm vaccinated. But I don't know anything. I really don't know anything. I have a sense that and I've read what you've read, but I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I don't know, really. I have basic faith that if everybody in society all the scientists, more or less, are saying something, and all the reporters who are talking to the scientists are coming to a conclusion, I kind of go along with it. I believe in vaccines, you know? But there are a lot of people who don't believe in vaccines. A lot of people in my family who don't believe in vaccines. I think a lot of this stuff is really, really complicated. So after I finished this video yesterday, I was like YouTubing around, and I started discovering different people. Like I found a doctor who was talking about how the government gave Pfizer a ton of money to develop the vaccine, and then Pfizer is going to make like $30 billion this year. Apparently a successful vaccine, you make like $2 billion on it, you know? And half of that is, or I don't know, maybe it's $1 billion and a half of that is spent on marketing and educating people as to what the drug is, etc. So like a successful vaccine, I think it's like $1 to $2 billion is what you're going to make on it. Pfizer's going to make like $35 billion this year, and that much or maybe more next year, right? So the United States citizenry, via their taxes, supported Pfizer to come up with a vaccine. Now Pfizer's going to make all this money. And I realized, listening to this doctor who was talking about, it's like I realized like the anti-vaxxer argument is like it's more complex. It's more complex, but the media make us into each other's enemies. And we have like a center progressive left mainstream media in America, in my opinion. And then we have a predatory, reactionary, like on the verge of violence, right-wing media in America. And these motherfuckers are making a lot of money. Like, I've never watched Rachel Maddow, but let's just use Chris Cuomo. Like him on the one hand, he leans left, we all know it, it's not totally objective news. And you got like Fox, Tucker Carlson on the other hand, who's blatantly, unapologetically right because he has to be, because everything else is left wing, you know? And one of the things that my friend Lily was saying yesterday is that like we're being pitted against each other. We're being pitted against each other. I was listening to a woman on Kara Swisher, I think her name is. She's on the New York Times and she does tech interviews. And she was interviewing the Facebook whistleblower. And the Facebook whistleblower said, here's some facts for you. She was a data scientist at Facebook and she said, here's some facts. Facebook needs engagement, okay? Facebook needs engagement. And she said, everybody knows at Facebook that the number one way to engage people is to enrage. Enrage, engage. Enrage, engage. Enrage, engage. Okay? I know this is true. I have this stupid U channel that I should delete. Okay? And like people are so kind. Like they're so kind in the comments section. It's just it's beautiful. And it's beautiful. I mean that. And then there are like 13 good comments. And then there'll be one comment where the guy says, like somebody the other day, I posted something about enlightenment. And this guy's like, well, what about when Dogan said this? And what about when Rinzai said that? You don't know what you're talking about. And that fucking shit sticks with you. It sticks with you. I'm engaging with it in my mind. I'm engaging with it now. I can't tell you a single positive comment, but I can tell you what that douche said, okay? Enrage and engage, okay? That's how Facebook gets our data. That's how they package it along with everybody's data. They package it into these predictive futures market. Shoshana Zuboff calls it in a great book called Surveillance Capitalism. They package it into these bundles of information, and they predict the future, basically what you're going to buy, what you're going to sell, and then they sell it to corporations, right? They sell it to companies, they sell it to advertisers, okay? And the more you engage, the more they figure out who you are, and the more they can target you for products, okay? So this Facebook data scientist was saying that Facebook knows this. And so you're 5 times more likely to engage someone if you enrage them. These were her words, okay? You're 5 times more likely to keep someone's attention if you piss them off. My point is, whether it's Facebook or Fox News or MSNBC or the Austrian newspapers here or the Daily Beast on the left, or the Daily Wire on the right, like all the fourth estate media, they're existing in a cultural ecosphere right now where they have to keep our attention. Just like I have to keep your attention now by babbling red-faced at the camera. They have to keep our attention. And you do that by pissing people off. And you do that, and you piss people off by making enemies. And they're making enemies out of us. I think it's really easy to demonize. I do it all the time. I demonize people who don't want to take the vax. I mean, is your mind like mine? I mean, I go through all sorts of I try on all kinds of different ideas and perspectives. I mean, for a while, I thought I had it where I thought I knew something. I thought, people who are against the vaccine are crazy. They're conspiracy theorists. I mean, I can't really commit to this because I've got a lot of family members that won't take the vaccine. I think a lot of the anti-vaccination stuff, like, it goes down a rabbit hole really quickly. My brother, somebody that I know, sent me a video that's like an anti-vaxxer video, and it starts off. This woman is like with a scalpel. She is dissecting late capitalism, neoliberalism, the very cozy and toxic relationship that big business has with the American government, and how they're locked together, and how this is destroying democracy and giving us the illusion of a free country when it's not. She's quoting Naomi Klein and Noam Chomsky, and I'm watching this thinking, I completely agree with this. And I'm like laser focused on her because I want to see when the crazy comes. And I was rewinding this video, and I was trying to find the exact point when the conspiracy theories come in. I do not believe I am anti-conspiracy theory to my core, but I'll get to that maybe. And so I couldn't quite find the point, but at some moment she shifts. And it suddenly becomes that Bill Gates is chipping you, and this is for the transhuman future where we're all slaves, And conspiracy theories for me, I feel like life is so, like, really, like, human beings can get together and, like, control the course of human history. Fuck off. Life is way more chaotic than that. And I mean, we have enough pure facts that show how elites are running this world to where we don't need to say that Bill Gates is chipping us. And my own personal opinion is that a conspiracy theory, you're like giving up. You're giving up on trying. You're giving up on engaging. You're giving up on being practical. And you're spinning off into wackadoodle-doo territory because you're afraid of the world, and you're afraid to act, and you're afraid to take responsibility, and you're afraid to, like, trust the democratic process, and you're afraid to admit that the first noble truth in Buddhism has some truth to it. Like, no matter how hard you try, no matter, it's never going to be a perfect world. So you just give up and say, everything is against me and everybody's plotting against me. I really have a thing against conspiracy theories. Probably because I grew up with them, frankly. My parents are really conservative, and I grew up, like, hearing about the John Birch Society. We used to hold John Birch Society meetings in my house where we were all told how there's a communist conspiracy to take over America. They've infiltrated the Catholic Church. They're in the government. They're in our schools. Commies are everywhere. Meanwhile, my mom now couldn't give a fuck that the Russian government is completely manipulating our elections by buying tons and tons and tons of Facebook ads and promoting dissent online in America. Now she's moved on to new conspiracy theories. So this has been a rambling video. I'm probably going to edit out 89.9% of this. So this was an experiment because, like I said, I spent 12 hours yesterday babbling, and it was just phony crap. So I thought I would just sit in front of the camera and just talk. So here's my point. When I was sitting with my friend yesterday, Leela, what am I calling her? Leela, and my girlfriend, and we were sitting around and we were thinking, ultimately the conclusion was like, I don't know. I took the vaccine. I took it 3 times. I trust it. I trust it. And I don't think there's going to be bad side effects. But I think that people are angry. And they're confused, and they know something smells fishy. They know it's fishy that the American government gave Pfizer a ton of money to develop the vaccine, and that Pfizer is going to make 30, 60 billion, however many billion dollars off of this vaccine, right? Like, they know something's fishy about that. People know something is fishy about this system where huge media companies are controlling what we say, controlling how we feel, trying to control it, trying to make us completely predictable. There's a myth that Facebook and Google and their ilk are gathering our data so that they can learn more about us, so that they can better cater to our needs. That's incorrect, okay? Read Shoshana Zuboff's Surveillance Capitalism, or read James, I think his name is James Bridle, The New Dark Age, I think it's called. Like, there are a lot of people who talk about this. The algorithms that runs our social media and much of our tech industry, they're not designed to get us what we want. They're designed to make us more predictable. So they nudge, they cajole, they push us to an extreme. Because if you're at an extreme, then you're extremely predictable. My mom, who thinks she's a free thinker, is the most predictable human being on the planet because she's far right-wing. And any right-wing talking point, she will pick up and run with. And whatever the Republican Party that is pro-life is doing, saying, or thinking, she will go along with it. I mean, my mom... You don't even need an algorithm to predict my mom, you know? And I've got friends on the left who are the exact same way. You know, like, anti-vaxxers are stupid. I'm so smart. I believe in the science. Trust the science. Here's my pussy hat. Blah, blah, blah. It's the exact same thing on Bernie, go Bernie. It's the exact same thing on the left. Completely and totally predictable. But one of the conclusions that we came to last night, or that I came to after talking to my friend last night, is that I don't know. I don't know, and I want to maintain a don't know mind. I think we're going to go into more Omicron lockdowns here in Vienna. We just got out of one now. I think we're in for more lockdowns this winter. I think we're in for more unrest. There's a lot of marching in the streets here, and the media always covers it as crazy right-wing extremists, but it's not. I have a friend who is the most liberal, like old artist hippie you're ever going to meet, and he's out there marching every single weekend. I've been to these marches. I'm out taking my walk after writing innocently, and suddenly there's these hundreds of police, Austrian police, right, in their riot gear, because you have to get a permit to march here. It's interesting. In America, you just take to the streets and start setting trash cans on fire. But in Austria, you have to get a permit, and then the police come and protect you, and you march. So I randomly wind up in these demonstrations because they do it in the most beautiful part of town. So I walk amongst these people. I wind up talking to them. There's all sorts of different people represented at these marches, and they're not all anti-vaxxers who think that your arm is magnetized after you get vaccinated, okay? There are people who are sick of being lied to by their government. They're sick of incompetent, untrustworthy, greedy leadership, right? They're sick of they know something's fishy, they know something stinks, and they're out there protesting it, okay? They think it's kind of odd that their uncle, who put all his money into a small business, now goes out of business because of the lockdowns, but Amazon has put how much onto their plus sheet, on their plus side on their balance sheet because of these lockdowns? They know something is fishy. So, my point is, I'm trying to maintain an open mind. I tend to get, like maybe a lot of us, it's hard to keep open during this time. Like it's really easy to read the newspaper and to go down a rabbit hole in your own head. And for me, it's like these fucking anti-vaxxers. Take the vaccine, let's get through this. And I still kind of feel that way. But I think there's the picture is bigger than I can see, and there's more factors. And a lot of times I think when people take to the streets or they adopt crazy theories, I think there's an energy behind it. And the energy finds a manifestation maybe in a crazy idea, but there's an energy behind it, an energy. And it's a counter energy to whatever the mainstream energy is. And the mainstream energy really is take the vaccine, right? But maybe there's also a mainstream energy of obey. And the energy behind the counter obey energy is no, I don't want to. And I don't trust you. And the system is corrupt and it's rotten and it's coming out now. I mean, this has been happening for a while. It happened with the 2008 financial crash. Remember we had Occupy Wall Street after that, and we also got the Tea Party after that. Like these events, like the 2008 financial crash or 9/11, like they're seismic and they changed society. I mean, after 9/11, we declared a war on terror. We created a whole new department in the executive branch of the government, the Homeland Security, and we wound up invading Iraq, right? Like Corona's going to be huge. It's going to be huge, and it's an open question right now what kind of society we're going to begin to create after Corona. We keep talking about how the hospitals are filling, and that's why one of the reasons why we have to stay at home and self-isolate and change our lives. And I find myself thinking, gee, we're 2 years in now. Invest some money in more hospitals. Upgrade the payment that you're giving your nurses and your doctors. Train more people. Marshal the kind of response to this pandemic that we marshaled, for example, in America to 9/11. I mean, we know how to battle an enemy we can anthropomorphize, like terrorists, okay? We don't know how to battle an enemy we can't anthropomorphize, but maybe we have to change our thinking a little bit. Maybe that's part of the counter energy behind the anti-vax movement. Like, no, we're not going to do business as usual, right? You're not just going to make me stay at home while Amazon makes billions and billions, hundreds of billions of more dollars during this pandemic. Facebook continues to reap my data and use it to create more division in America. And the pharmaceutical industry is going to they're going to be bathing themselves in liquid gold that they're making off of these vaccines. Like there's a counter energy that's saying no, right? And I find myself, I'm going a little bit crazy here, but I find myself when I want to keep an open mind. I used to work a little bit with Egyoku Roshi at the Zen Center of Los Angeles, and she worked with Bernie Glassman, and Bernie Glassman had a great little saying that was don't know mind. Don't know mind. I believe in the vaccines. I'm going to take them. I think everybody should take them, but I don't know what the energy is behind the anti-vax movement. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes at the pharmaceutical companies or in our government, right? I don't know. I don't know. I do know that when I think I know, I get mean and I get arrogant and I get snarky and I make fun of people and I judge them and I start talking out my patootie like I was in that video yesterday, which I'm going to delete. And if it was film, I would take the film stock and burn it because I was pretending like I knew. But I don't know. And I think it's healthy at this time to maintain don't know mind. Maintain don't know mind. Open mind. Open heart. Obviously you're going to have your opinions. Fuck opinions. Have convictions. I have a conviction that the vaccine is a good idea. I think it's a great invention. I think it's beautiful. Even the fact that these pharmaceutical companies came up with the vaccine, I think it's fucking beautiful. And it's actually maybe even an example of why big pharma is a good idea. They got a lot of money, and they get a lot of money from the government, and they can marshal all their resources, get the scientists together, pay them a boatload of money, and get us a damn vaccine that seems to work. It had like a 95% efficacy when the FDA tested it, right? I think that's great on the one hand. But ultimately, to stay sane in this time of change, because I think we are in a time of change, I think it's good to have convictions. I'm going to throw out my opinions. I don't know squat. Have convictions. And the convictions are usually very few. I'm going to take the vaccine, okay? And then keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. When someone is rambling to me about, it's so hard to listen to conspiracy theories, but maybe there's an energy behind it that has some truth to it. And it's not finding expression in words and ideas that I can agree with, but maybe there's an energy behind it that can't be stopped, that's going to help change the country and the Western world and maybe the whole world for the better. Maybe it's going to contribute. It's going to be an ingredient in the changes that happen when we come out on the other side of this pandemic. Because in my opinion, we can't keep going on the way we were going on. I mean, people aren't happy with that neoliberal world order where everybody has to go to work and give their time and energy to the man and continue to create products that are the extraction of the materials that we use to create them are destroying the planet, and the offices that we have to work in day and night in order to create these products are destroying our soul, and we don't have a medical system that takes care of us, yet we have a government that pays 100% of our military protection. Well, the invader isn't a military invader anymore. So why don't we build out our hospitals instead of building more nuclear bombs? Like, there's a lot of questions that are coming out of this. And there's going to be a lot of energies that play into whatever answers we come up with. And maybe some of these, as I said, energies that create ideas like conspiracy theories I don't agree with, but I'm going to try and keep an open mind to see what comes next. See what comes next. And listen and throw my opinions out and maintain my convictions, keep an open mind. Merry Christmas. Fuck YouTube. Hi friends, are you getting ready for a Merry COVID Christmas? You ready to stand under the mistletoe, put your triple masks on, lather up in antiseptic, and then blow your beloved a kiss from across the room where she's standing behind a big plastic shield with a diving helmet on? Thanks, Omicron, you Grinch.